gender and sexuality, sexual orientation and gender identity, such as homosexuality, lesbianism, bisexualism, transgenderism. They all scream, "I was born this way. This is who I really am." And yet, it's not who or how the God of Israel, the creator of the universe, created a person to be. It is clear in his word that he created only two genders, and that these two genders were meant to be in union with one another. Now, I think the number is up to 31 genders that you can claim or choose from or identify with. I don't know, but it's crazy. But the Bible clearly states there is only two genders, male and female. They make up mankind. And mankind is not a sexist word, just because it has man in it. Mankind is just another way of saying human beings. That's all. Because it was the woman that came out of the man, so it's mankind. So it's referring to females as well. It's like man. It's the same kind as a man. It's like man. It came out of man. So even in the King James English, in the book of Genesis, where it talks about the creation of foliage and fruit and vegetables, and it says that they were seeds after their own kind. So this leaves room for all the different species and variations of a particular fruit or vegetable or foliage or what have you. So Genesis 1:26 and 27, as well as Genesis 2:20 through 24, all speak clearly about there being only two genders, male and female. And the reason that there are only two genders is because God himself is a spirit, and within himself, he has masculine and feminine qualities. No quasi-qualities, no in-between qualities, no bi-qualities. And so when he created male and female, he created mankind after his own image. And according to Jewish custom and tradition and Jewish mysticism, that before a person is born, they exist as a soul, a male-female soul in the heavenlies. And when God decides to, give this soul a body, he splits it in half and sends half to earth to be born in a male body, the other half to be born on earth in a female body. And so when these two people are born, it's their mission in life to find each other because they are soulmates. And this is a play upon the account in Genesis where it says, "A man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh." They shall be one soul. So, due to the fall of mankind, we have a bent towards rebellion and a piqued inclination to all that which is perverted, twisted, and evil, and yes, even abominable in the sight of God, who is our creator and thus has the right to dictate to us moral absolutes. God created us, therefore he has the right to lay down the law. He has the right to say what is right, what is wrong, what is, what isn't, what's real, what's not. And this goes even back to Genesis chapter 6, when the fallen angels who rebelled against God and set themselves up as deities on earth, they cohabitated and copulated with human women to create these hybrid Nephilim, these fallen ones who became the giants. They weren't purely human. They weren't purely angelic. They were a hybrid. And the book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch talks about the other activities of these fallen angels, that not only did they create these Nephilim, these giants, but they also manipulated the genetics of animal kind and started creating these hybrid animals that we see in Egyptian and Greek mythology. The centaurs, the minotaurs, the men with dog heads and with bird heads, and all these different kind of things, these chimera type creations. So all these are considered a perversion of God's created order, of how he has set up things to be. And when things got out of hand, God destroyed the world and the earth with a flood, in order that these perversions, these satanic creations, could not continue to exist and perpetuate. One of the reasons is, one of the plans that Satan and his fallen associates had in mind was to pollute the human seed and genome so that there was no more gender distinction, so that nobody was purely human, so as to thwart the proto-evangelium, the mission of Genesis 3:15, where God was going to bring a redeemer through a woman to destroy the seed of the serpent. So anyway, but because of our fallen and human nature, we are susceptible to influences of the evil one, his cohorts, and the way they manipulate our bodies, soul, and spirit, as well as our environment, entertainment, pop culture, family and friends, all to funnel us like a rat into the trap he has designed for us. So, one of the latest incarnations of Star Trek Discovery, is heavily promoting such things as homosexuality, lesbianism, bisexualism, transgenderism. But as I recently watched an episode of Star Trek Voyager, the issue of homosexuality, lesbianism, bisexualism, transgenderism was made clear in the light of the Borg, in the light of a Borg, a former drone. I'm speaking of 7 of 9. If you're not familiar with Star Trek, Voyager was flung into a far quadrant of the galaxy, far away from the Federation, from Earth, and they've kind of have to survive on their own, like a Robinson Crusoe in space, so to speak. And they were attacked by the Borg. They were able to get this Borg drone, this female drone, and separate her from the collective. And so they're trying to make her human again, to allow her to become human again. So they're taking off these mechanical parts that had been placed on her and implanted in her by the Borg. So, the issue of homosexuality, lesbianism, bisexualism, transgenderism was made clear in light of the Borg, a former drone, 7 of 9, being severed from the Borg collective, and Captain Janeway attempts to bring her back to her humanity from which was taken from her. So allow me to set up the scene. Being severed from the consciousness of the Borg collective, 7 of 9, who prior to assimilation was a human girl named Annika Hansen. Her suppressed human immune system reasserted itself and begins to reject the Borg implants. She becomes angry and a danger to others as well as to herself, and is placed in the brig. She goes ballistic and attempts to penetrate the force field that's holding her within the cell, when Captain Janeway is alerted to her outburst, and she goes to see her. So this is Star Trek Season 4, Episode 2, called The Gift, and this is the scene in the brig. 7 of 9 says, One. Janeway enters. 7 is pacing sadly now. 7. My designation is 7 of 9, but the others are gone. Designations are no longer relevant. I am 1. Janeway. Yes, you are. 7. But I can't function this way alone. Janeway. You're not alone. I'm willing to help you. 7. If that's true, you won't do this to me. Take me back to my own kind. Janeway, you are with your own kind. Humans. 7. I don't remember being human. I don't know what it is to be human. Janeway picks up a computer pad and lowers the force shield. 7. What are you doing? Janeway, I'm coming in. 7. I'll kill you. Janeway, I don't think you will. Janeway enters the cell, staying out of arm's reach. She shows 7 the picture from the personal file on the computer pad. Janeway, do you remember her? Her name was Annika Hansen. She was born on stardate 25479 at the Tendra colony. There's still a lot we don't know about her. Did she have siblings? Who were her friends? Where did she go to school? What was her favorite color? 7 looks at the picture for a while, then slaps it out of Janeway's hand. 7. Irrelevant. Take me back to the Borg. Janeway, I can't do that. 7. So quiet. One voice. Janeway, one voice can be stronger than 1,000 voices. Your mind is independent now, with its own unique identity. 7. You are forcing this identity upon me. It's not mine. Janeway, oh, Yes, it is. I'm just giving you back what was stolen from you. The existence you were denied. The child who never had a chance. That life is now yours to live now. 7. I don't want that life. Janeway. It's what you are. Don't resist it. 7. No. She collapses into Janeway's arms. Janeway helps her back to the bunk and holds her. I want to take you back and focus on the last bit of that conversation. 7. You are forcing this identity upon me. It's not mine. Janeway. Oh, yes, it is. I'm just giving you back what was stolen from you. The existence you were denied. The child who never had a chance. That life is yours to live now. 7. I don't want that life. Janeway. It's what you are. Don't resist it. 7. No. Many in the LGBTQ community claim those such as the conservative Judeo-Christian population who don't agree with their lifestyle and attempts to prove from various angles that it's unnatural and an unacceptable identity and way of life use this very phraseology. Okay, so let me reiterate what I just said because I know it was a little bit confusing. Many in the LGBT community will use 7 of 9's words to the Judeo-Christian community, to those who do not believe in the validity of the LGBTQ lifestyle and choice and way of living. And so what 7 of 9 says, the LGBT community says, you are forcing that identity upon me. It's not mine. You're forcing the straight and natural-born gender identity upon me. It's not mine. That's basically what they're saying. They're crying out, you don't accept me for who I am. I'm different and you don't accept me for who I am. The ironic and funny thing is, the people in the LGBT community don't even accept themselves. They can't accept who God created them to be, male or female. Some people may argue, well, what about hermaphrodites? They're born with both genders. Yes, but that is a birth defect. And usually the sex of a hermaphrodite person is dependent upon which sexual organs are most mature and most functional. Most of the time, one or the two will be more dominant. And if the ovaries are working, then that hermaphrodite will be female. If the testes are working, then the hermaphrodite is male. So the LGBT community says the same thing that 7 of 9 says. You are forcing that identity upon me, that straight, natural-born gender upon me. It's not mine. And Janeway's reply is superb and is applicable and acceptable and a truthful response to an LGBTQ person. Oh, yes, it is. I'm just giving you back what was stolen from you. Stolen. Stolen by the satanically devised manipulation through body, soul, and spirit, as well as environment, entertainment, pop culture, family and friends that was bought, accepted, and assimilated into, just like the Borg. Somebody who is LGBTQ, they have been assimilated just as humans and aliens were assimilated into the Borg collective. And many of them were assimilated at a young age and don't really remember what it's like to be a boy or a girl or to be, typical in that way. It's so simple and straightforward, intellectually, logically, and spiritually, and doesn't need to be muddled by wannabe pseudoscience and abstract pop culture philosophy. Chromosomes and DNA dictate only one of two genders, and thus only one of two identities. That goes along with said gender. It just blows my mind how the scientific community hasn't rose up against the LGBTQ community and say, okay, we're not about feelings, we're not about emotions, we're about facts, we're about figures, we're about science. Chromosomes dictate sex, gender. Chromosomes, it's who you are. It's one or two. It's either or. So chromosomes and DNA dictate only one of two genders, and thus only one of two identities that goes along with said gender. In the case of a birth defect, as I mentioned before, hermaphroditism, a person born with both sets of genitalia, the dominant functional genitalia, dictate the true sex of the individual. Now, one can undergo a sex change to outwardly appear to be the opposite sex. And supposedly, in order to match one's broken psyche. But the chromosomes and muscular skeletal structure will still decree the true gender of the individual. Now, the only person who had the kahunas to come out against transgenderism, especially in the realm of mixed martial arts, was Joe Rogan. When Fox Fallon, forget the name, is a transgender MMA who was a man that transitioned into a woman. And as a woman, she was a supposedly female MMA fighter, and she almost killed another female fighter in the ring. Almost killed her. Why? Because even though he cut off his penis, and although he implanted boobs, and although he took testosterone suppressants and took the female hormones shots and everything like that. And outwardly, he looks like a woman. Nonetheless, he still has the muscular and skeletal structure of a man. It's an unfair fight because, man, as the Bible says, the woman was created the weaker vessel, not intellectually, not spiritually even. It's just physically. We're physically different. And that's just any male-female species within the animal kingdom. Usually one is more stronger than the other, more dominant than the other, has different colors than the other, although they're the same species. So it's not downing or putting a slight on a woman. It's just saying that she's the weaker vessel, so a man could beat up a woman, basically. So, Joe Rogan says, this is ridiculous. There's no need of this in MMA. The greatest misconception by the LGBTQ community is that most assume and believe that those who are genuinely of the conservative Judeo-Christian persuasion not only disapprove of them, but hate and condemn them. Despite the popular mainstream way of thinking today, it is possible to disagree and even oppose someone and still love them. Do I love gay people? Do I love lesbians? Do I love transgender people? Bisexual people? Yes, I love them as human beings and as a person. I totally disagree with their lifestyle and their way of life and their sexual orientation and their choices, but I still love them. And I don't want to harm them. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to kill them. I don't want to beat them up. And that's what most people think that Judeo-Christians, people of the Judeo-Christian conservative mindset think, is that, we hate them and we want to kill them. No, I have friends who are homosexual and lesbian. And they know that I disagree with them, but at the same time, they still know that I love them. I can still be friends with them. I can still love them and agree to disagree with them agreeably. I don't have to approve of their lifestyle to love them. I don't have to approve of their lifestyle to support them as a human being who has trials and tribulations and struggles. Now, I'm not trying to equate the LGBTQ community with drug addicts, but in a similar vein, it's like a drug addict. I totally disagree with their use and abuse and their addiction to drugs, whether it be cocaine, whether it be alcohol, whether it be whatever. But I love that person, even though they're addicted. And even though their life is totally screwed up and messed up because of their addiction, I still love that person, and I want to see them free from that addiction. I still love people in the LGBTQ community, but I want to see them delivered from who the evil one has manipulated them into becoming. It's funny, they always cry, "You don't accept me for who I am. This is who I am. I was born a boy, but I identify as a girl." Or, I'm a man, but I love other men. I'm a homosexual, whatever. It's funny, they cry that they're not accepted, but at the same time, they cannot accept themselves. That's why they want to change into something that they're not and something that they were not created to be. because they do not love themselves and they do not accept themselves. And I know that's very harsh for many people out there to hear, but it is the truth. So, there's a great possibility because of the nature of this verbal blog, this podcast, this teaching, if you will, because it flies in the face of what is acceptable in our community today in the Western world. It's very possible that this could be deleted because it goes against social media community standards of whatever. But I love people, and I want to speak the truth to them, even though it may seem harsh, even though it may seem unsavory. I want to tell it to them in love. And I leave the ball in their court and leave it up to them whether they want to accept it or not, whether they want to research it more or not. But it basically it's not about feelings, it's not about emotions. It's about science, and it's about who God created you to be, male and female, no in between. And your chromosomes dictate. So no matter what you do to your outside body to make you match what you think you are, whether you attach a penis to a female or cut off a penis of a male, it doesn't make them the opposite sex. Their DNA, when you extract their blood and put it through a DNA analyzer, it'll still tell you what their sex is. They are born male, they are born female. You are not born genderless. And that's basically the bottom line of it all. If we continue on this pathway in our Western world to go by feelings and emotions, and I quote unquote I identify as this or that, and we don't stick with the scriptures and science, the next step in that parade is, well, I was born a human being, but I identify as a dog. And that would give somebody the justification and an excuse to start acting like a dog and perform sexual acts on a dog, bestiality. Okay, probably a lot of you are mad because I said that, and it's disgusting. How can you say that? But think about it. That's the logic. That's the screwed up logic of this way of thinking. That's the next step in that parade, is bestiality and the acceptance of bestiality. Because I don't identify as the human, I identify as, and it's already happening, but in softer ways. I know I'm an adult, but I identify as a baby. So I'm going to go around and suck on bottles and wear diapers and have somebody else take care of me. That actually happens today. And they build these elaborate big playpens and cribs to fit in an adult. And they live part of their life as a baby. Something is broken within the human spirit that only Messiah Yeshua can heal and put back together and repair. No amount of psychoanalyzing and pop culture psychology and head shrinking is going to accomplish it. It takes a regeneration of the spirit through salvation in Messiah Yeshua, accepting his redemptive work, repenting of one's sins, turning away from one's wickedness, and totally submitting themselves to the God who created everything, who has the right to dictate us what is, what isn't, what's right, what's wrong, what's reality, what's false, what's fake. But yet we're following in our fallen nature after the lust of our flesh and the fallen entities that we know as demons that influence our lives to continue on that path to sin. And thus our fallen nature is in rebellion against God and treason against the King of the universe. And I just recall the scriptures where Yeshua says the two greatest commandments in the Word of God is the Shema, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second commandment is equal unto the first. It's like unto it. It's just as weighty, just as authoritative. Love your neighbor as yourself. Herein lies the problem of the LGBTQ community. Love your neighbor as yourself. How can you love someone else, another human being? How can you love your neighbor if you do not love yourself? And in not loving yourself, you want to make yourself into something that you're not. Being a drag queen, transgendering into another sex, homosexuality, lesbianism, bisexualism, swinging both ways, whatever. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you cannot love and accept yourself, how can you love and accept another human being? How can you fulfill that commandment? And there's a lot of LGBTQ people out there who say, I can be a Christian I can be a believer and be LGBTQ too. Not according to Scripture, not according to the Bible. You can't even fulfill that simple commandment to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you loved God with all your heart, you would take his commandments and take his word at face value and obey them. And if you loved and accepted yourself, you wouldn't be LGBTQ. And that's the bottom line of it all. Again, we are a broken people, a fallen, sinful, broken, incomplete people, born with a God-shaped hole that only God can fill, and only surrender and submission to him. He's not a wrathful deity that wants to squash you in the dirt and the dust. He is a loving God who wants to love you, embrace you, complete you, heal you, make you whole. Yeshua said, I came that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. And no wonder suicide rates among the LGBT community is higher than any other group or subgroup or paragroup or counterculture group that's out there, because they don't love themselves. They can't love others because they can't love themselves. And outwardly, the reason that it was called gay is because outwardly they look happy. Oh, they're fun to be around, life of the party. But behind closed doors, they're angry, they're lonely, they're hurt, they're scared, they're depressed. Nobody loves you, nobody accepts you. You know, you're incomplete. You might as well end it all. So my heart cries and goes out to the LGBT community. It disgusts me, and I hate what they do and how they live, and you know, the perversion that's seen in these gay pride parades and demonstrations. All the chains and leather and S&M type stuff. It's just gross and sickening. They're even subjecting little kids to it, and subjecting little kids to this through, you know, having a drag queen read story time at school. And programming and influencing and perverting the young. It breaks my heart and it disgusts me what they do. But as a person, as a human being, I love them because I know that they're hurt, they're broken, and they need healing, they need restoration, and they need help. And we as believers in Messiah Yeshua who follow the word know this and understand this and have this. Yeshua said to his disciples, freely it has been given to you, freely give. Freely you have received what I've given to you. Give it to others for free. That's why I teach. That's why I preach. That's why I evangelize. Because I want people to have what I have. Because I'm whole, I'm happy, I'm complete. Thanks so much for listening and tuning in to this edition of the Monthly Musings. Go out there and have a great day and love other people. Shalom and Shavua Tov. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press the like button as well as the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and the notification bell that'll let you know every time I make a new video. And don't forget to share this with a friend. Also, visit our website at abrahamsdescendants.com. Thanks. Shalom.